Ми добре оділи його чи ні? Хорошо оділи, Олег.
When Vitaly heard the Russians had reached their village, he knew he had to get Oleg to safety.
Не холодно.
So, with his wife Anna and their daughter Irina, they started to move as the soldiers began shooting at point-blank range.
3 people were taken down for nothing. They simply stood in their yard and they got shot.
This is the story of Ukraine's disabled refugees. Some carrying the scars from a lifetime of abuse and neglect. Now there is hope of new opportunities and a better future. But the pull of home is testing their love of country against love of family.
President Putin has launched a large-scale military assault on Ukraine. War has returned to Europe.
The crater gives you some sense of the power of this explosion, and I actually saw the missiles this morning flying across the city's skyline and then hitting. And this is one of the places that's been devastated.
More than 3.5 million people have now fled Ukraine since the Russian invasion. Most of those refugees have travelled to Poland.
So, here in Krakow, the Fritzenko family lives life on hold.
Ти без шапки не замерзеш?
Ні, не замерзла мене.
And here's why. A column of Russian tanks rolling into their little rural village. The moment the war reached their doorstep.
Це було дуже страшно.
It was very scary. The fright and the terror, because there was no way for us to protect our children. We were hiding in the basement with them.
We were afraid that if a missile hit, we might die and the kids will stay. They simply won't survive without us.
It is impossible to describe that horror. That's why, after spending 2 months in the house, we made our decision to go to Krakow, to Poland.
Now, this is home. A room above a sports centre on the edge of town.
Бери все-таки, давай же порішаємо.
Safe from the war, but not its trauma.
Ми багато намагалися.
How do you think all this has affected Irina and Oleg?
We don't know what hurts them, where or how. It's all the way we understand, the way we see, and the way we feel them. They started losing weight. Ira became more unnerved. Oleg, after we came, didn't smile for a month.
Може, шию наїсть, бо такий худий.
But in amongst the war's damage, disruption and uncertainty, there is hope of new opportunities for a young man like Roman. His day now has new purpose. For 20 years, Ukraine said school wasn't for him. But Poland is showing what's possible.
He goes to school with pleasure. He wakes up and I ask, will you go to school? And he runs to the door, stands there and waits.
And after waiting so many years, this is the joy of finally being able to learn.
This is an opportunity he never had in Ukraine.
Yes, this is special for him, and I wonder why a child like Roman went not to the school in Ukraine.
Нам сказали, він не обучаємий.
We were told he was unteachable, that there was no school for him.
До школи він повинен або чомусь.
And now look at him. Learning, thriving, developing. One-to-one support and this sort of individual therapy just wasn't available for Roman in Ukraine.
Hello. Hi.
Ivan's another 20-year-old who's escaped the war and whose world is expanding after arriving here from a life confined to a bed in an outdated Ukrainian care home.
Couldn't even move a lot. Like I'm not talking about like sitting down or walking. I'm no, just about movement.
It's taken months just to get Ivan to this point, being able to sit up after 20 years trapped in the same position.
You know, when you are staying in a bed all day, all night, all you can see is walls and ceiling. And right now, he is able to drive on a wheelchair, which is awesome.
This guy's 20 years old?
Yes.
Never.
This is footage of Ivan just after he arrived in Poland. He was one of 60 young Ukrainians evacuated from a residential institution in the east of the country. They were so malnourished, 2 didn't survive.
When I first saw them, it was a huge shock for me because they were in terrible condition. They were really skinny. I didn't think it was because of the war, because they came to Poland at the end of February, so it was just the beginning of the war. So it couldn't be that. So yeah, it had to be like a system in Ukraine or something.
Now they have new opportunities for better care and proper therapy, one-on-one support that wasn't available in Ukraine. So look at Lily, on her feet and taking her first steps, aged 11. And Oksana is interacting more and finally being heard.
I'm watching them changing. They speak to me more, they smile more, they like to hold my hand, which is awesome. I love that.
Are you worried then that if they went back to Ukraine, some of that might be lost?
Of course,
might be reversed?
of course, I'm afraid of that.
This is what they'd be returning to, a system of abuse and neglect which we exposed 6 months ago. A network of care homes where disabled children are locked away, even tied down. And despite reaching Poland, these young people can't escape the Ukrainian system. Their own government insists, even in other countries, they are held together like this. The United Nations is concerned an outdated system is spreading.
Well, this is a very sad situation. These kids have not got the emotional attachment that is needed. They're experiencing high level of anxiety. In fact, it's contrary to all international standards in terms of children's rights. We must take the necessary step to change this policy. This is absolutely impossible to witness.
Polish officials had to reopen this abandoned psychiatric hospital to house the refugees.
This one here is for sort of a girl of about 12. We've got like finger mitts, toys.
Lee and Chris have made life better here, bringing donations from the UK.
Dobre?
Dobre? Спасибо.
Lee filmed this on his first visit in April. Since then, he's seen this place slowly improve and these young people develop. The sensory room they fitted out has really helped.
You can see the difference?
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's... Yeah, it's honestly, it's black and white. From what there was to what they are now, it's positively changed for these children's lives.
It's better than it was, better than what they left behind. But this is still restricting.
These young people have got so many more opportunities here. There's more stimulation, more interaction, more care. But there is a question mark over whether their long-term future belongs here in a place like this. If these young people stay here longer term, do you think they would ever be able to have an independent life?
Okay, we are doing a great job, but what kid doesn't want to have family?
And whatever strides they're making here, Ukraine still holds these children back, denying them a chance of the love and freedom of family life. And this is that love that's driven Vitaly and Anna's fight to keep Oleg and Irina free from Ukraine's institutions.
Because these children require more attention and more warmth. One carer for 10 people simply cannot give the warmth that the parents give every day, every time, every minute.
For decades, they were told their children belonged in residential care.
How could we send our children away? I don't know how anyone could do that. Only someone without a heart could do that. Having our children is our biggest source of happiness.
And there's help here in Krakow from this organisation, Patchwork, which is supporting 150 Ukrainian families. There's speech therapy, rehabilitation, Polish language lessons, all to help people settle.
Овца, super.
These mums have sewn this community together. They all left Ukraine long before the invasion, for the good of their own children. Now, they're sharing what can be achieved and improving the lives of others, like Roman.
When he absolutely lightens up in the water, when he's getting rid of his limitations and feels absolutely free, it's really been rewarding.
Заграй пану.
Взагалі, от ми попали в цю школу, ну, так нас Бог звів.
Was as if God guided us to the girls from the Patchwork organization. They recommended the school for Roman as soon as we arrived.
Софія!
And while Roman's at school, there is respite for his family. His parents have never had time for themselves or been able to focus on his sisters.
Це було чудово, то був наш час.
Oh, that was amazing. We brought him to school and they took him inside. So we stood there with the dad and I asked him, so what do we do now? We hadn't been alone like that for 20 years.
But the urge to go home to Ukraine is posing the toughest of dilemmas.
То душа хоче додому.
Our soul longs to go home while the brain feels something different. We don't know how we will decide on all that. For Roman, sure enough, it's better here.
Відкриють такі школи, можливо. Ми дуже на це сподіваємось.
А взагалі він любить з мамою бути. Так.
There's no dilemma for Alexi's mom. She's desperate to get her boy back home.
Та, ну, бо я люблю Україну, бо я
I love Ukraine because I gave birth to my children there, and Alexei's health is unstable, so should something happen, I would want it to happen in Ukraine. When exactly it will happen, I don't know. Just every month I see him getting worse.
In early October, their bags were packed, ready to go. Then a fresh round of missile attacks hit Kyiv, and it was too dangerous to leave. But Kasia's determined. Alexi's life won't end on Polish soil.
Can you tell me why that is important, why that matters so much? That Alexei is where you want him to be?
Бо він там народився, і я
Because he was born there.
Millions of refugees are desperate to get back to their lives in Ukraine. They're fed up of this temporary existence on hold. But making the best decision for these young disabled people means considering so much more.
I'd expected that with so many other opportunities here, people would have been reluctant to go back to Ukraine. But actually, that urge to go home is still just as strong. What is different is that having seen another perspective, how things can be done differently, people go back with greater expectations, with a belief that anything is possible.
Для нас це складно після гарного.
It's hard to return from good to worse conditions. This will be hard, but abandoning the country. Our home is there. I have a huge hope that maybe a school like Romance will get opened in Ukraine too.
Червону руту не шукай вечорами, ти у мене єдина, тільки ти.
The call of home is growing louder for these families, but disability complicates an already impossible dilemma. And at its heart is a mother's love for her country, but first for her son.
Щоб мене сюсюкали, масюкали, носили, кружили, да?